Now Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. Since its release, I've really loved this game. It's frankly been some of the most fun I've had in absolutely ages. There was always something about bringing a franchise like this back, even if it was going to be a little bit of a challenge. And whilst it's not the most innovative Dragon Ball game out there, I think it still has some merit for being as fun and engaging as it is combat-wise. But it definitely has problems in other areas. This game really is a prime example of how hype and expectation can unfortunately make something fall flat on its face. Recently, DLC has launched for the game with a less than stellar review base, and trust me when I get into this, it's really bad. To go from a game that was quite literally everyone's favourite thing for months on end until it released, to becoming one of the most driest desert-inducing experiences of most people's lives. Let's look into how Sparking Zero turned the hype into regret. Not listening to the community. This can be pretty self-explanatory, but in the case of Bandai, this is a problem across every single game of any sort of franchise they have their hands on. For example, a person notices a problem, sees something is wrong with the game, reports it to Bandai, Bandai looks, sneer and jeer, and ignore, rinse and repeat. This has kind of been a textbook style of working Bandai since the 7th generation of consoles came out, to be honest. And it's especially telling when this game had some pretty glaring issues from the start that were not apparent in former releases. As I said before, it was a spiritual successor of the Budokai Tenkaichi series. Unfortunately, right now, it doesn't live up to any of that hype. For example, the original had great maps, which were expansive, lots of customization in terms of characters, movie events, and ideas around different modes, which were pretty revolutionary for the time. So you'd think when this game dropped there would be lots of this, right? Well, you might be delusional, my friend. Sit right back down. The biggest complaint with any of this is that the game feels so lackluster. We got a few big maps, yes, but nothing incredibly innovative or special, and that scream to us, please play this more. There's nothing here. For a game that literally is meant to span the whole of the Dragon Ball universe, they even forgot the OG exists. There's no iconic locations like the Lookout Okami house, rest in peace my boy Roshi, and in fact there's about 12 maps in this game compared to the former game that had 35 maps, which in comparison is pretty bad. A pretty poor offering. But it gets even worse. The music in this game just doesn't hold a candle to anything we've seen before. It's pretty much kinda hype, but at the same point you're telling me a song like this rivals this. Yeah, there's no way. It unfortunately seems like the cheaper end of the stick was given here. Now, I wouldn't be bothered if this was for the first few months of the game. Stuff takes time to develop, but nothing ever got added. The simple fact is, in terms of original content getting updated, Bandai is literally doing the bare minimum. It has stayed the same ever since it released. A few fixed patches, nothing too big, bringing some original elements back like OG camera stuff and now sound effects, fair enough, but it's honestly not enough and pretty cheap, and lazy at best. But there was a hope in sight. You see, if you're like me, you were expecting incredible quality for the 120 quid that you spent on both versions of this game. You had the DLC to look forward to, yes. It was going to offer great characters, amazing maps of stuff from Superhero and Daima, like we've seen in Xenoverse, and of course, they would just jump over hoops for the community, right? Right? You know it's bad when Xenoverse gets it better. This is by far one of the worst DLC offerings I have seen displayed in modern day. It is one of the laziest cash grab experiences to just somehow deliver the least amount of content on a budget I have ever seen. And it is something that has really ruined the experience of many. Personally, when this DLC was first announced, I was really excited, as was everyone else. Superhero is a good movie with good content to be added. We've seen it happen in Xenoverse 2, so why not Sparking Zero? And I now paint my face like a clown and continue living my life because this was a stupid decision. When you mentioned that 20 plus characters are going to be added, I didn't assume you meant transformations. Because in this game, unlike Xenoverse transformations, they barely usually offer anything different from base form. It's usually the normal skill set. I'm an idiot, and instead of offering, you know, what they advertised, they didn't, thus decreasing the amount of value of these packs. Realistically, this means that out of the 11 characters for Superhero promised, we were given only 5. That's 5 characters, and usually in this franchise of game transformations, we don't count this on their part. For DLC 1, this is really greedy considering that unlike games like Xenoverse 2, they didn't add anything extra, like costumes, stages, or anything really different, which are needed and were missed opportunities. This could have meant stages like the Red Ribbon Army Campus or Piccolo's house could have been playable, which means at least 2 stages, which, you know, were pretty good and could have helped alleviate this pressure, but no, nothing was considered. And that's not the end of it. There's no storyline expansion for Gohan or Piccolo, which was a really bad decision considering if you look at a grander scale of how much we've lost. That's 6 characters from Super Hero gone. I can think of some characters which were pretty integral to that story that could have been added. Teen Goten and Trunks would have been big picks due to the fanfare, and obviously because this would have been the first time they were ever used in a video game, it would have been a big deal, but it wasn't utilised. Pan, obviously, Dr. Hido, a comedic Yajirobe type of character at best, but also someone who would have been fun to play as. And to round off the mix, our character Soldier of the Red Ribbon Army and Magenta would have been fun to play as. A bit of difference, all of this would have been possible if you added maps and just gave 10 characters that were full of content. Considering this pack is more expensive than most of the others, almost costing 20 quid each, it's the least they could have done, but no, it didn't happen. And then we get on to Daima. Daima is even worse now. Only 8 with once again 5 baseline characters which honestly don't even scratch the surface. They decided the best they could do was just waste slots. This DLC is mostly the Goku and Vegeta show, a show that should have been well and truly over by now. Vegeta Super Saiyan 2 even gets some love despite GT Goku Super Saiyan 2 never getting the privilege of such a slot. It's really a bizarre scenario where after Vegeta for the first time ever, at least in canon form, gets Super Saiyan 3, he's given the whole double whammy, but arguable choices like one of the Tamagamis don't. Pansy and Glorio makes sense along with Majin Ku, but alas from them, there's nothing else here that's hugely mind-blowing or really worth the asking price of this DLC. Once again, no new maps, which could have seen Kami's Lookout or the Demon Realm finally added to Sparking Zero, and no costumes, including the iconic Goku PJs, which don't make a return. Everything here just doesn't make any sense for the amount of money that you spent. And of course, during checking the script of this video, this dropped, and we got none of the above I listed. The sheer issue with this DLC coming up is yes, we get Super Saiyan 4 Goku twice, but also Super Saiyan 3 Adult Vegeta, Majin Buu, and both Goma form, which tallies the total DLC characters Sparking Zero to a whopping, excluding transformations, which in other games have never been considered, to be 14 characters. This is piss poor on a huge scale. In this new DLC, we get a new map, but it's the end of Daima, and of course, it's not given a complete package. No Super Saiyan 3 Goku Mini, no Tamagamis now, we are kind of fucked. The sheer fact right now is this DLC is not worth a dime. This is lazy, the creativity that could have been offered here was exponential, but it didn't happen. Now you could blame higher ups, but there's a bigger reason why we probably didn't get more, and that's down to there's just no content to cover. If I was to be honest and say I'm not seething at the amount of love something like One Piece gets when we get an anniversary anime, and that's it, I would personally be in need of some kind of reality check, because the whole reason people are probably begging to be answered is where on earth is Dragon Ball Super, and when on earth is it returning? Unfortunately for us, Shueisha are an interesting company. They like everything tight-knit to the manga and won't allow video games to adapt any of it until the anime returns. Now if you're wondering why content has been pretty slow with the game, it's because as we speak there is a rights issue between Bird Studio Shueisha and Capsule Corp Tokyo. Meaning that if you expect any kind of Ultra Ego or weird ass giant Ultra Instinct Goku in these games in the next, I don't know, 5 years, you're probably going to be surely mistaken. Not even the Dragon Ball anime is able to come back unless it's original. When Akira died, that was it. The whole rights issue went flying out the floodgates. And even then, it's the reason fan favourite characters from Budokai Tenkaichi 3 and Robot Girl Boss Arale didn't return. It's because quite literally they can't, because everything is locked down, and given the way courts over in Japan work, it's telling that this is probably going to take potentially ages to sort out. I mean, what more DLC can the game even offer? It became an ambitious goal, fair enough, for Bandai to put everything up to Broly in the game, but when it's all said and done, what more can be added? And this is what kills everything. Because even a game like Xenoverse 2 is struggling. The devs over there have had to think of ways to get these characters in these games, and mark my words, the same techniques will probably happen like a fake-ass version of Vegeta over Ultra Ego. It's really a sad state because these rights issues cannot be easily sorted. But there is a hope in sight, a light from the heavens, an angel descends, and its name's mods. Yep, mods. The holy grail that is owning a PC and fixing the game yourself. The modding community for Sparking Zero is actually insane. We're not just talking reskins here, they're adding entirely new content, stuff like Ultra Ego Vegeta, Granola, Moro, Daima characters, even fully revamped UIs and HUDs that make the game feel like classic Tenkaichi 3 again, and that's not even scratching the surface. Want to play on Kami's Lookout? It's there. Want the music from Budokai 3 or Dragon Ball Z Kai? Done. Want a complete rebalanced gameplay overhaul that fixes the camera, changes up the mechanics, or gives you new dramatic intros and win quotes? Modders already did it. While Bandai was still trying to figure out what a stage select menu is, these people aren't working with budgets or corporate teams, they're just passionate fans doing the work because they love this franchise. And what's wild is they're doing an even better job than the actual developers. It's almost like the real spiritual successor to Tenkaichi isn't Sparking Zero, it's the modded version we had to make ourselves. But here's the problem, mods can only carry a game so far. They give you a better experience, but they don't change the public perception. If Bandai doesn't fix the core content drought, all we're left with is a patched up shell, and it's a damn shame, because this game could have been legendary. Still, if nothing else, Sparking Zero might live on as a platform for fan creativity, which is more than I can say for a lot of other games that were killed off before they even got a chance. In all seriousness, mods truly are saving this game. They offer big quality of life improvements, and the teams of these are working on really new and innovative ways to make this game just better and special that Bandai is not thinking. But is the game going to continue to be as popular, especially with such a content drought? Mods can only save this game so far before the inevitable shutdown of servers, but I seriously hope the game decides, if it's got nothing left, to either release DLC on original Dragon Ball stuff we missed out on due to the OG showcase cull, or honestly just leave the game without DLC until some sort of thing can be worked out, which won't inevitably kill the game into an oblivion. I just hope this isn't a whole ass Jump Force situation and that this game isn't culled before it reaches its potential, but there are core examples of where I don't want the game to go. But yeah, in conclusion, we are most certainly in a pretty weird situation with Sparking Zero. A game once regarded as the game to replace OG Tenkaichi 3 is now just a shell of its predecessor, with no future outside of this overall drought of content. There are still lots of ways to go, but I do see things improving if everything in this video is addressed. But if it ain't, that's fine. Also, there's always a potential of a sequel to fix this stuff, but then again, it might just become the next mediocre game replaced by the next big trend. It's kind of how life works. But until then, I've been Shanicus. Thank you for watching another video. It's really appreciated. If you want to see more, like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, let me know what you think could fix Sparking Zero. I really want to know. Now everything's done and dusted. Stay fit, stay well, and bye for now.